evening, everybody. There we go. Well, we're getting a little bit of feedback from the microphone this evening, so I'm just going to do my best to project and do what Chair Rita Hart would say is her teacher voice. I'm not a teacher. My mother was a teacher, though, so I grew up on the other side of it with the very loud voice telling me, "Gregory, what are you doing? Gregory, come back inside." My name is Gregory Christensen. I'm the Vice Chair of the Iowa Democratic Party. I am here in place of Rita Hart this evening. Rita, our chair, unfortunately did have a family emergency come up today, and she's on a plane right now to New York City to be with her family. So you have the B team, or as I like to say, the B team, because I'm the vice chair, makes it a little bit easier for me, and is a joke that usually lands about as good as it just did right now. I'm really glad that you could join us, though, this evening. As you may have heard, we are doing regional Hall of Fames this year, rather than one Hall of Fame that's usually in either Des Moines or Cedar Rapids or Iowa City. The goal of the state party is to bring the party to the people, right? It's people over politics. We know that that's our slogan in Iowa, that's what we've been talking about for years. Jennifer Converse is leading on that message. Pam Yoakum is leading on that message. All of our great candidates and our elected officials are leading on people over politics. So how could we have an event in Des Moines and expect people from all across the state to come into Des Moines for our one fundraiser, when instead we could do 18 fundraisers all across the state? And know that I'm really excited about 18. It seems like a lot of events. We're certainly putting mileage on all of our cars driving across the state, but it's so worth it because we get to see people that we otherwise would not see. Raise your hand if you've been to an Iowa Democratic Party event in Des Moines in the last few years. Raise your hand now if you haven't been to one of those events. So see, these are the folks that we would be missing out on. But luckily, we're here tonight, you're here tonight, and you get to hear from some amazing folks that are doing great work across our state as a part of our Hall of Fame, but also you'll hear from some of our candidates and from some of our elected officials as well. You know, Chair Hart, as she speaks at events like this, she likes to tell a story that staff at IDP and me as the vice chair, since we get to hear it just a few times, we've colloquially called the rock story. Raise your hand if you've heard Rita Hart's rock story. A couple of people, I know Kevin's hand went up immediately back there. So I'm now going to recite from memory Rita's rock story. Just kidding, I wouldn't do that to you. I wouldn't do it to Kevin, but I wanted to see if I could get a reaction from him. No, Rita tells a story, though, about how she grew up on a dairy farm, and her job as a child was to pick up rocks along with her brothers and sisters. The older kids would pick up the bigger rocks, the younger kids would pick up the smaller rocks, but everyone picked up the rock that they could carry. And she uses that as an anecdote to show that all of us have something that we can give to the Iowa Democratic Party and to our candidates. Lift the rock that you can carry. Well, I don't want to steal her anecdote, but I would like to add on top of it something that I heard from someone just the other day, that county parties and the volunteers in our party structure, what we do, we lay the gravel that a campaign builds a road on top of, right? The work that you are doing year-round is to help establish that strong foundation so that when our candidates make that really difficult decision that I'm going to run for office. You know, Ross here is an amazing elected official. I'm sure, Ross, when you first were thinking about running for office, you were like, I'm going to be an elected official. This is what I want to do. I want to hear from people all the concerns that they have on a regular basis. Probably not, right? But you made the tough decision when you saw what was happening at the state legislature, when you saw that there was a way for you to get involved in the community and to give back. So when our campaigns are moving forward, when our candidates are deciding to run, we want to make sure that we give them a strong foundation from our county party structure so that they don't have to do all the work themselves. There are people that can knock the doors, that can make the phone calls, that can reach out to voters across the state and share their message. Because Ross can't do it. Ross, if anyone could do it himself, it's Ross. Man, like basically does triathlons, I feel like. But But our candidates really can't do it alone. They require all of us to do what we can do to lift the rock that we can carry and lay that gravel foundation for those campaigns to build the asphalt road over top of. So thank you so much for the work that you do within your county party, for the work that you do with the Iowa Democratic Party, and for the work that you will be doing every day between now and the election for all of our candidates. We've got great Democrats that are going to be on the ballot this year. Obviously, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, that's the top of the ticket, and we have to do whatever we can to make sure that Democrats hold on to the White House and keep sanity in our government, keep democracy in our government. But if Joe Biden were here, and this breaking news, he's not. There's not a motorcade outside. But if Joe Biden were here, he would say that what's even more important is what we're doing at the local level. Because politics actually works not in a trickle-down way, but in a trickle-up way. What you do at the local level, helping your state legislative candidate, helping those municipal candidates in the off year, that's what builds the bench that then we can run for statewide office. And our congressional candidates like Ryan Melton can build off of that momentum. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing on behalf of Rita and everyone at the Iowa Democratic Party. Huge shout out to everyone in this room. Please give yourselves a round of applause because you are the Iowa Democratic Party. So I told you at the top that we have done a bunch of events across the state as part of our Hall of Fame. This is one of those events, and we get to recognize some Democrats. I will admit, I was not planning to be the one speaking this evening, so I was not as well versed as what Rita would have been in all the amazing accomplishments of everyone that will be getting an award this evening. That said, the first person who we're going to bring up here is a dear, dear friend of mine, and someone who is probably everyone in this room has at least heard of before. In many cases, you might have interacted with him in a labor field. You might have interacted with him through the Democratic Party as district chair or in his role as the chair of the Iowa Democratic Party's Black Caucus. But everyone in this room probably knows him. He certainly is the best dressed person this evening, Al Wallner. Gotta make sure we get the right award here, but Al is a truly amazing Democrat. Like I said, you're really wearing so many hats, which tonight you're hatless, but we all know that that's because he has too many of them that he can't wear all of them. He wouldn't be able to walk in the door. You're involved with the Labor Federation, you're involved with the Black Caucus, you're an FCC member, you're involved in your local, in the Polk County Democrats, you were 3rd District Chair, you were just nominated or received the award for being the West Des Moines Citizen of the Year, is that correct? Yes. So many hats that Al is wearing. Join me in big congratulations to Al.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, I wish I had got the memo, because I would be dressed a lot more like Tim Winters in here, as opposed to being in a suit and tie. This is not my normal attire. I'll just say a couple things really quickly. First of all, I learned how to be a really great volunteer from a humble Iowa farm girl who comes from a small town called Wheatland, Iowa in Clinton County. She was always involved in her hometown, was more involved when she got to college, and then when she moved on to Chicago when she was older, continued to be involved both politically and at her church. And as I was growing up, she always taught me that you can do anything you put your mind to. I'm talking about my mom. I wish she was still with us today, because she would be so proud. And I have to admit, you know, I am the picture nerd. My wife's here taking pictures right now for me. But I have pictures of her with so very many of you, because she kept volunteering all the time. I was just telling my friend Bill Brock, who is our Polk County chair and was chair of Iowa's 3rd Congressional District before me, I've got pictures of Bill with her. I've got pictures of her with Cindy Axne, with Governor Vilsack. with Barack Obama, with all sorts of people, because she kept volunteering and she kept going out there. You know, she kind of reminds me of an old verse that says, you know, who shall I send? Who will go out for us? And my mom's always, her answer was, well, here am I. Send me. That was my mom. I just want to say one last thing. And this also comes from a woman who I greatly respect. You know, during the 1955 Montgomery bus boycott, there was a 68-year-old woman named Mother Pollard who walked 5 miles back and forth to work each day because she refused to get on segregated buses. And at one point in time, as she's walking back and forth to work, a group of young men stopped to her and says, you know, Mother Pollard, don't you want to ride back home? And she's like, no, dear, I'm fine. And they started to take off, and they stopped and they said, well, Mother Pollard, aren't your feet tired? And she said, you know, my feet are tired, but my soul is resting. That is what we have to think about when it comes to volunteering for the Democratic Party. I know a lot of you work. I know a lot of you have children. I know you have a lot of responsibilities. For some of you, that's golfing and having a beer at 10 a.m. But we still need to make sure that we go out and we help individuals like Gregory and people like, you know, Ross Wilbur, and we help people like Ryan Melton and Mike Wolf and all of these other candidates. We're not going to win these elections by staying at home and cursing at our TV. We're going to win these elections by making sure that we door knock, we phone bank, and we do postcards. And when you do it to the best of your ability. You know, Martin Luther King once said that all labor that uplifts humanity has dignity and is important and must be done with painstaking excellence. And I know that because I married an Irish Catholic woman, and when it's time for me to do the dishes, buddy, you better do the dishes right. So I say to you, thank you, Gregory. I want to say thank you to the Iowa Democratic Party for, you know, giving me a chance to serve, because there's nothing better you can have than a chance to serve. And I invite all of you to come out there and join us. People like my friend who wasn't there. Man, I'll tell you what, she is a woman who is everywhere. Even though she may be hard to miss because she's only like 5'4". But you know, I gave you the 2 extra inches because you got a big personality. But come out and join us. Come be a part of this. It's really what is going to help us make sure that not only do we send our friend Ross Wilburn back to the State House, but we give him company to go back to the State House with. And it's also going to make sure that we have a president we can be proud of, instead of a guy with 34 indictments against him, and make us put somebody like Joe Biden back in the White House to represent the great state of Iowa. Thank you, everybody.
All right, I want to be very cognizant of Ross Wilburn's time. Ross has been generous enough to give us a little bit of a legislative update, some of the ugly maybe that happened this year, but also some of the amazing work that Democrats did to push back and to make sure that what could have been a really bad legislative session turned out to be not the best, but not as bad as it could have been, right, Ross? So let's bring up Ross for a second, and then we'll be back.
Story County Democrats, you fired up? Yeah! Are you ready to win? Yeah! We got to win some seats back in the Senate. We got to win some seats back in the House. So, but Gregory, thank you for filling in. He said the V team. I say it's the victory team. What about you? Yeah! Let's do this. So it was a rough legislative session. We knew it would be, but you know, Herman did great work in the Senate. Beth, she's just a stalwart in the House. I love to follow her leadership, especially on issues related to reproductive care. And we're waiting for the Iowa Supreme Court as we speak to make a decision on the 6-week abortion ban. And, you know, the Senate majority, the House Truman, and the Iowa Democratic Party all partnered in the past couple, 2 years to do some research to find out what Iowa's, not just Democrats, moderates, Republican, other parties, on what they think and how they are so tired of politics, and they told us. And that's how we came up with the People Over Politics agenda. Education, funding education, reproductive rights, money for public schools, keeping costs low, and yes, legalizing marijuana for adult use. Those are what a vast majority of Iowans from across the spectrum had said. But, you know, we knew it was going to be a tough session, but going through it is another thing. And all of you signing up for social media and spreading the word around that we are putting out about the bills, it helped with some of the nonpartisan groups like the League of Women Voters showing up at the public hearings to make sure that all those voices were heard and risen. We need to take that momentum. I know Gregory's going to go over some of the our candidates that are coming forward that have stepped up to run. Besides myself, Beth and Herman said he'll tell you he's half the time, but twice the doors he has to knock on. We need everybody to stop doing that. So I think the other thing that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned to you all, first of all, if you were at the state convention this past weekend, please raise your hand. Let's give those folks an applause. Giving up an entire Saturday and part of a Friday, I mean, that's the work it's going to take. You know, we all need to raise a little bit more money, but we just can't let ourselves be outworked. That's what Democrats do. We knock on doors, we go again and again and again. We have to extend that invitation to reach those 92,500 some registered Democrats who didn't vote 2 years ago, to get them out to make a big difference and take that momentum on through the fall. The other thing is we did have a training for at least House Democrat candidates this past weekend. So again, the candidates coming before the House and the Senate are really buying into that People Over Politics agenda. I will say two things. One, just proud to represent you. I know Beth and Herman will say the same thing because we do that work at up until 4:23 in the morning towards the end of the session. But we do that knowing that you all have our backs. We do that knowing that the harm that's been done across the board, that's something that we will help lift and you know, just help make life better, a little bit better for Iowans. And finally, hi to Rita if you watch this. But secondly, no, I didn't, as growing up as a kid, I didn't think I wanted to be an elected official. I actually wanted to be a firefighter. I was part of the Firefighters Club, and unfortunately that 4th of July, when we set off our fireworks, we set this log on fire. We did put it out, but it just takes everyday people stepping forward, and we all need to get behind them to do that. So congratulations to all of the award recipients, and Beth and I both have a caucus at 7:30, so we may cut out a little early, but let's enjoy the evening, and we know we've got work to do.
All right, thank you, Ross, and thank you so much for all the work that you do and all of our elected officials have done this past session. I'm so glad that I was not there because I don't know how you guys put up with some of that craziness, but it was so encouraging to see our Democrats still put forward good policy that really benefits Iowans. Now, we just need to make sure that we get back to being in the majority so that we can pass that good policy and turn it into law. We did get some good things through, but we can do more, and Democrats are going to be the ones that will be looking out for Iowans all across the state. So, as Ross said, we can all do a little bit more, find a little bit of time, because all of our candidates need that little extra help to get over the finish line. Do what you can do to help out candidates. Again, as Rita would say, lift the rock you can carry. All right, next up in our Hall of Fame awards is our Rising Star Award. Now, traditionally, as we have done these events. I think this is event number 8 for us this year. We've had one Rising Star, but for this region and all the counties that are here this evening, one just wasn't gonna cut it. We've got so many great people that are in this room and that you are representing in your counties this evening. So I'd like to invite up our first Rising Star recipient, Latifa Faisal. Give her a big round. Now, Latifa, you are a county supervisor,
Yes.
right? What does that look like for you? And how has that role helped you become a Rising Star within the Iowa Democratic Party?
Well, I think just showing up every day for everyone in our county, coming to work, doing the work that is important for everyone every day, regardless of what party they are in, representing everyone regardless of what party they're in, and making sure that services that people depend on are continuing to be there regardless, and just making life better.
Love to hear that. I was hoping to hear fixing up the roads, right? Because that's what everybody seems to point out.
That's not sexy.
That's not sexy. But what she did point out is why she is a Rising Star, right? Because when she was elected into office, in an office where she could have said, I'm only going to look out for the people that voted for me, you said, no, it's about everyone. Once that you're in elected office, you put down that partisan blinder, and now your focus is on the people.
Right.
And that's why you're a Rising Star this evening, and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
If you'd like to, please, take a moment.
Oh, it's fine. That's fine.
Al has a tendency
Al's amazing. Al is always prepared to speak. I didn't prepare a whole lot. I just wanted to say thank you. I didn't expect this. And kind of like Ross, this was not ever on my radar. It never occurred to me that I would run for office and have the privilege of serving the people of Story County, the people who come into Story County. I spent a lot of my childhood outside the United States in a country where we don't have a lot of choices. And so being back in the United States and then having the privilege to serve is tremendous and really make a difference for people. And you guys are, we've said it, you guys are so important, and we need to find ways to pull more people in, because the things that are happening in Des Moines and in Washington across the entire country, they're not just happening, but out of nowhere. It's been a long, slow marathon that they have been on, chipping away at the things that are important in ways that they think nobody's going to notice, or nobody's going to make a big deal about this, that, and something else. And so far, they've kind of been right about some of it. I don't know how we connect with the people who are so disenfranchised, the people who are just exhausted. I'll admit, depending on the moment, I'm one of those people who's just tired. But then I look at my kids, and I look at my brand new grandson and my granddaughter that's on the way, and that is not the country that I want them to grow up in. I don't want them thinking this is normal. There's a whole generation of kids who are growing up with Trump. This is their normal, and it's on us to make sure that they see that it's not. So.
Yeah, you heard it from her. What we're seeing with Donald Trump, not normal. Let's show him what normal is. And that's what Democrats stand for. That's what Democrats do, right? All right, our next Rising Star recipient, again, couldn't have just one, so we have 3 of them this evening, is Elijah Steins. Elijah was nominated by Penny Bossler, and Elijah has just been making sure that we're bringing back transparency to local government. And I think that's something that is truly exceptional, because a lot of folks, as we cross the state, say the one thing that they hate most about what this Republican trifecta government has done is they've taken transparency away from the process. They've taken power away from the people, and the people no longer feel like they know what's going on. So transparency in local government is key, and that's why Elijah Stein is our next. If Al doesn't have his camera, something's going on. If you like, take a timer. Okay.
No. So, yeah, like the other elected officials, didn't set out to do this. It wasn't my master plan. We moved to Boone, my family did, my wife and I, in 2008 because it reminded us of where we grew up. We saw the potential there for Boone to be something more than it was, and the people that have been moving to Boone have seen that as well. And first, I do want to thank all of the people in this room that helped give me the opportunity to lead Boone into the future and realize its full potential to serve all of the families just like mine. It is a very unique opportunity, especially at this time. And I think that I'm really uncomfortable with the Rising Star moniker, but if I could embrace it for one purpose, it would be to be somebody that could set an example for other people in my position to take that leap forward and just do what they can do to lead their communities where they think they need to go. My generation doesn't always feel like they have a lot of agency about things that are going on around them, but that's where you have to start. Running for local office or even serving on a board and commission. When I would have the opportunity to fill out our library board, our historical preservation board, our arts advisory board, I looked for people that were new to the community, that had that same vision, that could see where we wanted to go together. And I could not be more pleased in the short 6 months since I've been in office and how much they have accomplished and how much they brought the community together and are taking it forward. So be that example for others, encourage them to run for office, encourage them to get involved into their community. That's how we can improve the lives around us. And it doesn't matter if they're Republican, Democrat, or Independent. When it's at the local level, we all care about the same things. And that's what's really liberating about working at the local level, is we can lift up as many people as possible if we just take the time to listen and care about what they have to say. Thank you.
All right, well, speaking about local government and empowerment, our next rising star this is very refreshing for me, because I'm often the youngest person in the room at some of these events. Rita Hart, I always tell her she's the second youngest, but I'm mainly pandering a little bit to keep her in my good graces. But no, this evening I'm very excited to announce Robert Aller as our next rising star. Robert is 28 years old, is that right? Yes, sir. Look at that. That's a true rising star. Congratulations.
Thank you all so much. It means a lot that you're all here and showing up for your candidates for the Democratic Party, and I appreciate being nominated and receiving this award. It really is humbling. So I just want to take a moment, echo what we've said tonight. Local government is extremely important in the way that things function and how government trickles down into people's actual lives. And it's important that we have people in office and running for offices who represent a new generation, represent people who care that the work gets done well. So I just kind of want to make sure we bring in competence into these offices, people who work the elections and train election volunteers and workers in ways that are supportive of our systems and institutions. It is incredibly important that we continue to do this work and that we don't let that just be taken by somebody because we think we're a free Republican county, because we're not. So I just want to thank you all so much, and nothing happens without the work of volunteers, without people's donations, and without support. People like me couldn't run and challenge people for local government. So thank you all so much. I'd be welcome to talk to you afterward. Thank you, Mike.
Well, this evening we also have a Lifetime Achievement Award, and I know that Rita is especially sad that she could not be here this evening to present to John Klaus from Story County, who's been the Vice Chair of Story County. Something very special about being a Vice Chair. You don't always get a lot of attention. But it's always fun to be that number 2 person because you can do so much work behind the scenes to support people out. So from one vice to another former vice chair. Thank you very much.
I just want to say how much I appreciate this award. It's always great to get a lifetime award. At my age, you're starting to look at memorials. Achievement is much better. I still have some tread left on the tires, so we're going to do some things. I want to talk a little bit about making our choir bigger. Now, we're preaching to the choir tonight, but we need a bigger choir. And every Saturday morning, I go down to Main Street where we have our farmers market. I open up our little Story County Democrats office, and I start to talk to people. And what people tell me is, where are the Democrats? What are you doing? What are you doing? And I tell them, we're going to be doing great stuff. We're getting ready to go. And I can feel the energy. My wife is president of the League of Women Voters in Story County. She's had like 4 or 5 people. We want to do stuff. We want to be involved. And we have to make sure that we make our choir bigger. Because our song has to be heard far and wide. As an example of how that choir can get bigger, I'm going to tell you a little story. On my street, I'm a precinct chair. I'm 2 houses down from me. There's a couple that lives there. They've lived there as long as I have. And they're not on any of my lists. They've never been on a walk list. They're not on a calling list. They're not on a list of precinct Democrats. And the guy who lives there, I drive by and I wave at him. He doesn't wave back. He could be a Republican, I don't know. But Carol's in the same book club as his wife. And this week, she said to Carolyn, would you ask your husband to write a postcard for me so I know what to put in it, know how to do it. Because I want to write postcards to make sure that our prior president does not return. So I'm just going to read, I came up with this and it may be helpful to you if you have somebody you know who needs a little help breaking the ice to learn how to spread our message. And this is what I wrote for her, and she likes it. And some other people like it. So it's kind of been road tested. It says, dear friend, did you ever imagine me writing to you to vote for President Biden? Well, what is truly unimaginable is the return of the previous president. We can't let that happen. Please vote. Infrastructure, reproductive rights, climate action. The rich have had enough tax breaks. Vote for President Biden. Helps you know, maybe it'll give somebody a little start. Carolyn has a bunch of them over there, whole stack of them. I'll hand them out to you. I just want to say that I really am pleased to have this. I'm so happy to see so many Democrats here. Good candidates, one and all. We're going to do something great this year. We're going to take back the State House, and we're going to preserve the presidency. And I want to say this, the postcards work. People love getting them. And I got a whole box of National Park postcards for my 80th birthday. And I'm going to use them. I'm going to write these cards out, and they're going to say, if you like national parks, vote for President Biden.
So thank you so much for that. Everybody make sure you grab one of those scripts so that you're ready to go ahead of November. All right, our last award this evening is the Tech Innovator Award. And I'm going to read a little bit of what Story County Chair Maddie Anderson shared with us. She said, for this individual, he comes to every single Central Committee meeting. And he takes care of all the audio and video at every event and is unfailingly helpful. Every event is on YouTube so that people can participate hybridly. And he is known for ad-lib puns, which is what I'm looking forward to most from when we bring him up here. Join me in congratulating our tech innovators.
I've been active in politics only since 2008, so I'm a youngster at this. And I think of all the people who been Story County Democrats before me, I wonder, how do I rate? But about this, I'm not irate. So, I'm very pleased and humbled. I just wish I'd done the audio for this event.
All right, well, we have more than one Democrat in a room this evening, so you know what that means. It means it's time to pass a hat, and this evening, a hat is just not big enough for this crowd. So Kevin back here has got a nice big black bucket there that he's going to pass around. If you've got a couple extra dollars in your pocket, I know everyone at IDP would love it if you could toss in a few bucks there. Your money really is going to help us grow the parade. For those of you who don't know, when Chair Hart and I were elected last January, we had 2.5 staffers at the Iowa Democratic Party headquarters. We're now up to 9, 11, even better. We're hiring for one position right now, so we are definitely growing this party to be a year-round, not just a campaign year, but in the off year too, strong organization that's supporting our candidates up and down the ticket, and we cannot do it without your help. I know so many of you have been so generous already with the contributions that you've given this evening, with recurring contributions that you give to the party and to our candidates. But if you've got a couple extra bucks in your pocket, I'd love for you to toss it into that bowl there. So, Kevin, if you want to pass that around the room, perfect. All right, well, oh, yeah.
Did you hear from Nate from Cedar Rapids?
We're gonna go through all of our candidates here in a second. Yep. So we'll have a chance to hear from everybody, and we're gonna kick things off actually with our congressional candidate who is here this evening. I know that he does not really need an introduction because all of you have had a chance to meet him so many times, I'm sure, over the last few years, because he actually is really showing up, unlike who you're running against, right? Like, where is he at?
I don't know.
He doesn't go to it, right? Unless they've got big checks, and we're talking like $10,000 checks, he doesn't want to show up. That's not Ryan. Ryan's going to show up and talk to everybody, and we're so excited to have him this evening. Ryan, the floor is yours. Tell us what's going on with your team.
Scowl at me if I'm not being loud enough back there, okay? Well, I was reflecting on when I first started running for this House seat in January of 2022, which feels like forever ago now. And usually the first question I would get from journalists asking me why I ran was, why in the hell are you doing this in that congressional district? You know what the math looks like, right? Well, I would often talk about Kansas, not just because I got my graduate degree there, but because I think Kansas is really illustrative of what can happen here. So about 10, 15 years ago, there was a governor, a very conservative governor, essentially a Kim Reynolds clone, that ran the state of Kansas, named Governor Sam Brownback. Governor Brownback was as regressive tax policy as you can think of, as disinvestment as you can think of, as austerity as you can think of. And at the time, he had complete control of the state legislature as well, so his entire agenda was able to get passed without a problem. The agenda almost bankrupted the state, right? It caused an awful lot of pain. They couldn't pay to fix their roads, they couldn't pay to fund their schools. Schools were closing, hospitals were closing. And they got so bad, people felt so much pain, even on the Republican side, that eventually he was booted out by a Democrat. Now that Democrat has been elected 2 times. So in a very red state, there is a robust Democrat running that state. And back in early 2022, I said that I saw a lot of similarities between what happened in Kansas to bring about the fact that a red state is now run by a twice elected Democratic governor. Saw a lot of similarities there with what's happening here. Now, no one in this room is rooting for anyone to feel pain, right? We obviously are the party of human rights. We're the party of identifying pain, addressing it, and mitigating it, right? But unfortunately, in our state, there are a lot of communities that unfortunately are going to have to feel some pain before they realize their voting patterns are not helping them. In this election cycle, I'm seeing that dawning, that realization on more and more of my Republican friends across the state. So one example of this, up in Primgar. Does anyone know where Primgar is? Yeah. O'Brien County. So I still don't know why I got this invite, but I was happy to get it. There was a journalist from a newspaper up there in far northwest Iowa, and they were having a county board of supervisor candidate forum in Primgar in O'Brien County, and she just happened to email me to welcome me there. And I'm sure, well, pretty sure I was maybe the only Democrat in the room. But when I got there, they knew who I was, and they were very warm, they were very gracious. And I met Kevin Virgil's dad. And I met Kevin Virgil's Sunday school teacher when he was a kid. And they were so happy to see me. Which I was a little bit surprised by, but it was nice, it was good. I then began to speak, and I acknowledged the elephant in the room, which is that, hey, I'm probably the only Democrat here. But I said, you know, I'm so appreciative of the warm welcome. I'm very grateful. And I think that once I start to talk, you'll see that we have a lot more in common than we don't. Because there are people that run this state that have an incentive to divide, that have an incentive to tell us why we're different, why we can't unite and get anything done, right? But we have other candidates out here. Special credit to Mike and Brian, to Penny, to Margaret. Our candidates are out there talking not just to Democrats, but to Republicans too, and are finding that this cycle there are more Republicans that are open to a conversation with us than ever before. Well, up in Primgar, I spoke about a number of things that actually Kevin Virgil, who primaried Randy Feenstra and won 40% of the vote in 9 counties from him,
shocked a lot of people. I talked about a lot of things that Kevin Virgil ran on. Kevin Virgil spoke very openly about his concerns regarding the damage that disproportionate corporate power has on our politics, on our governance, on our communities. He actually acknowledges that there's a cancer crisis in this state. I talk about the cancer crisis all the time because it comes up all the time, week after week after week. And a guy like Randy Feenstra, my opponent, the only time he's talked about water quality is when he celebrated the Supreme Court reducing the EPA's ability to regulate. But Kevin Virgil acknowledges the cancer crisis. And Kevin Virgil acknowledges that there's a lot wrong in our 4th Congressional District, just like I have as well. Whereas Randy Feenstra wants to say that the only assessment we should give to our status quo is how much we produce, ignoring all the downstream consequences of that status quo. So when I got done speaking to this all-Republican room in Primgar, Iowa, I got a really nice ovation and had a bunch of Republicans coming up to me saying, "Okay, I like the cut of your jib," as one guy said, which is one of my favorite sayings. I love that saying. "I like the cut of your jib, Milton." 3 weeks later, I was up doing sign drops up in Dickinson County, in Lake Park, I think. And the person who was handling my sign said, because she used to live in O'Brien County, she said, "You know what? I have a friend in O'Brien County that was at that event. And they loved you, man. And yeah, they all were Republicans, you're right, but they loved you." So here's the thing. It does not take being a Democrat to realize that when the vast majority of our 36 counties in our 4th Congressional District are hollowing out, when we're last in the country in mental health care bed availability rate, when we're last in the country in OBGYN availability rate, when we have the 2nd highest cancer incidence rate in the country, when our public education rankings are plummeting, we're losing massive population base all over the district. It doesn't take a Democrat to see that. And it doesn't take a Democrat to care about that. You know, Republicans, they don't like cancer either. They don't like being screwed on their paycheck every 2 weeks either. In fact, if you look at a lot of polling, half the Republicans in our country are pro-union. Because we all want to be respected. We all want to be properly compensated for the work that we do. Another really interesting that's happening this cycle too, I'd go to far northwest Iowa, the reddest parts of the country, and in 2022 I had Democratic Party chairs. They were well-intended. Say, "Ryan, you cannot talk reproductive rights up here." Well, this is pretty early on. They didn't really realize I do what I want anyway, so, you know. I said, "I thank you for that advice. I really do, because you care. It comes from a good place, but I'm not going to pander. I'm not going to water down who I am. Take it or leave it," right? But this cycle, Republicans that I run into all the time are very concerned about government overreach. This 6-week abortion ban you mentioned terrifies them. Democrats are not the only people having pregnancy complications in this country, right? They're concerned about book bans, draconian government overreach, right? So here's my challenge to you all. The more we can get away from the Democratic-Republican dichotomy in these conversations and focus on these issues that equally impact both Democrats and Republicans, you are going to make a heck of a lot more headway than you could have ever imagined. And I'll leave you with this. Primary night, when Kevin Virgil had shocked a lot of people and got 40% of the vote from Randy Feenstra and won 9 of the 36 counties, even though he started really late. He had no corporate backing, he had no Republican Party backing, but ran on some of the same progressive flanks that I run on. At his primary night watch party, when it was clear he was not going to win, we started a "Let's Vote for Ryan" chant. I kid you not. And Kevin and I are going to work together to see if we can find common ground and build something together. I assure you, I'm nothing like Kevin Virgil in most ways. But here's where I think we need to grow just as a body politic. I think it's okay to acknowledge that two people in the same room are nothing alike, who see the world in very different ways, but who also understand we have shared human pain. It doesn't matter how you look at the world. We feel pain the same way. And we need to connect and commiserate with anyone regardless of political affiliation, because we all feel that common pain. And if we are empathetic enough, as empathetic as we say we are unconditionally, we need to challenge ourselves to be the mature folks in the room and say, okay, I'm going to stand robustly on my views. I'm going to have disagreements with you, but we both care about enough. And if we make progress on those common ground issues where we care enough, we're going to make a lot of people's lives better. So let's make it happen. Let's keep fighting the good fight together. Thank you so much, everyone.
Good fight together, and one of the fights that we need to fight is to take back the state Senate. And we've got someone in our midst this evening that is going to be helping Democrats to do that, Margaret Liston. So let's bring up our Senate candidate. She also made some delicious goodies today and was like, where do these go? And I'm like, right in my stomach. But you know, I haven't gotten back there yet. So
I'm really pleased my raisin cream bars are gone. So, yay, thank you.
Look at that. Okay, well, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. Well, this is my first time running for state office, and it's had its challenges, but I guess what I want to share with you tonight is I'm out there doing parades, and I helped with the Boone County Democrat parades last year. Last year there was a lot of booing, parents, my grandson would be with us, but I'd hand out candy, and the people in the crowd would be yelling at the kids, don't take their candy, put that down. And I thought that is really sad. Sad that they're... Step up closer. Oh, sorry. It's sad that they're putting that on their children. So this year, I was over in Jefferson for the Bell Tower Parade, and I did not hear one boo. A few gestures, that's fine, but there was nothing booing. I just felt that the atmosphere was different. So then after the parade, we were up on the square at the Democratic booth, visiting with people, and I had one gentleman come up and say, well, I'm Republican. I said, that's okay. We can still talk. So we did. And we had a nice conversation, and he went on, and then a couple came up, and same thing. He said, I'm a Republican. I said, that's okay. Let me tell you about me. We had a nice conversation. And he took my cowboy card, and he said, well, maybe. And I said, in the general election, you don't have to vote straight ticket. I said, you pick who's best for the job. He said, you're right. So I walked away from that day feeling more confident into talking to people. And I learned from Ryan, when I'm at a door, if somebody's hesitant, I don't say anymore, well, I'm a Democrat, does that matter? I stop saying, if they want to know, they're going to ask. So it's been good, but I still need people to help door knock, write postcards. We're doing it, but thank you.
All right, we can't just have one other Democrat in the Senate. We need more and more and more and more, right? So next up, let's bring up Mike Wolf, who can talk to us a little bit about this campaign.
I really appreciate the chance to speak tonight. This is all a new experience to me. I've never considered running for public office before. But I had a chance to interact with my elected officials in the, not this session, but the one before it. And I work at a construction company, and you can all kind of get a gist of general acceptance of swearing. So I was on the phone with Representative Dave Dio, and I was trying to convince him that one of their draconian bills was just wrong-headed and cruel. And he didn't want to hear it. But, I was doing my best to be persuasive. I was trying to be kind and use reasoning. And I just kept hearing back from him more reflected talking points, a complete absence of him listening to me. And the whole time I'm like, keep those words in your head, those words in your head, keep them. And, just trying to use my persuasive voice rather than, just cut loose on the fella that was just, So, we ended that conversation. I am positive that he took nothing from the interaction. I was in the break room at work, and I hung up the phone, and all of the things that had been building up in my head came out. And like I said, I work at a construction company, so that tells you the bar I crossed to have somebody come get the safety guy to check on me. So, I got angry. And the thing is about being angry, if that's all you do, you did nothing good. But I decided, I can be angry and I can do something about it. That's what made me decide to run. Is it doesn't matter if I'm angry. It matters what I do about it. So I'm out here trying to convince people that we can be kind, that we can do the right thing for Iowans, and that just reflecting back talking points and ignoring what your constituents have tried to explain to you is absolutely the wrong way to go. But I can tell you that message hasn't sunk into our legislatures because they did the same thing again this session. I've been out door knocking a little bit. Just like last week, Herman went with me to Kelly. And the list that I had produced was meant to find people who were at least persuaded. So if this was a die-hard Trump house, they were not going to be on the list. And because, there's only so much time in the day, and I don't want to bother people, I want to convince them. So as I'm walking through this neighborhood, there was a couple of guys that were like going back and forth between these two houses, looked like they were setting up a barbecue. None of these houses were on my list. I just kept going, they looked busy. But as I'm looking around trying to figure out where I was, I was not very good at door numbers, I'll just say. So I'm trying to figure out where I was, and one of those guys looked over and was like, "What are you doing?" Because he's trying to look out for his neighborhood. I said, "Well, I'm trying to run for state senate." He says, "Well, what do you think about Trump?" I said, "Well, he's not really my guy." He said, "Well," he's ready to leave. And I'm already bothering him, so I was like, I don't have to convince you to vote for Trump for you to still be able to vote for me. He said, "Well, why would I do that?" Because I think that public funding should go to public schools. That man was ready to talk. He was ready to listen. He's tired of those policies that do nothing for rural Iowa just because they got an R behind the name. People are mad. People across the state are mad, and we can use that to work for us. And I ask you to help us do that. Right now, I think what we most need is more people out there knocking doors with us. I promise I won't send you to the Trump houses. There's plenty of people that are out there convincing that they just need a kind word to say, "We believe in you, and we believe in the state. We're ready to do something different. Come with us."
Raise your hand if Mike, you've been angry over the past 2 years. Now keep your hand raised if you are going to use that anger to fuel you to knock some doors for our candidates, right? We can't let it go to waste. We can't let it go to waste. All right, I want to invite up Penny Bossler. Penny has been knocking some doors, let me tell you. And that's what we got to do if we want to win elections. We got to go out and talk to people, Penny, right? So tell us a little bit about how that's going.
Okay. 48, that's all of Boone County. And in Story County, I've got Washington Township, so mostly between Highway 30 and Huxley, and the interstate and the county line, and Slater and Sheldon. Okay, and I am running because I don't know who these people in the legislature are representing, but I'm damn sure it's not me.
Yeah.
So I want to be represented, and I think it's not you. How many of you out there called your legislators and said, can you cut back on our school funding for our local schools? Raise your hand. How many of you said that? That wasn't you? Okay, women only. How many of you called your legislator and said, you know, my gynecologist and I have been making my health care decisions, but we'd really like you to get involved? Women? No? I mean, we know they don't have even a basic understanding of the human reproductive system, but that shouldn't stop them from forcing it down our throats, whatever their opinion is. How many of you, now I know when I was in high school reading Of Mice and Men, I might have voted for a ban at that point in time. You know, that's on the list. But what have you got against Huckleberry Finn? Come on. What subversive message is in Huckleberry Finn? Or that Charlotte's Web, now that. It's on the list. These people have, I don't know what they're thinking. But again, not representing you, not representing me, and we need to get rid of some of that. And I agree. Margaret and I together have knocked 2,000 doors so far, and we're going to do another 10,000. With some help by election day, we're going to do another 10,000. So we need some help. But from you, we feel you, we hear you, and we appreciate the support that we get. And if you've got any other way that you can support us, yes, we need help on the doors. Yes, we need help writing postcards. And you know what? A donation. Every campaign can use money to buy signs. And the candidate literature that you find at both doors, go ahead and take a piece. There's contact information on there. Follow, and share on social media. My campaign is not just website, Facebook, it's also TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Follow, share our information. The more we can get our names out there and our point of view out to people, especially if there's young people in your life, you know, get some of that enthusiasm and get them involved. Bring them in, bring them down, and bring them in. We'd be thrilled to have them all help us out. Thank you.
Very excited about these 10,000 doors. I'm going to personally commit to coming up and knocking these doors with you, and I hope everyone else in the room is going to do the same. All right, our next speaker is another Ryan from the 4th District, right? I mean, I think that you have to be a Ryan, you have to care about
the only two. I think it's just us two.
Well, that's fair. But, I mean, they're both exceptional, right?
Oh.
So I feel like that's an important quality. Let's bring up Ryan Condon from the 4th District here, who's running for, what, 51?
51, there you go.
There we go.
I'll keep this short. I think I'm the last one. Okay. My name's Ryan Condon. I'm running for the 51st. It's Ryan Melton who got me involved in this. Between Ryan and my wife, when the book bans happened, I couldn't believe it. I was furious, yelling at the TV, and my wife told me, okay, shut up and do something about it. We've been yelling about it for 2 hours. It's time to do something. I went to the Democratic meeting, and Ryan talked me into running. I am a veteran, a Boy Scout leader, a Cub Scout leader. I'm on the PTA. I'm married with 4 boys. I am a picture of a classic Republican. I am running for the Democratic spot. I have done a lot of door knocking with Mike, and where Mike's not much for the Trump signs, I love that's come and get it. I love talking to Trump voters. And my entire family are Trump voters. They believe in the lizard people. These are and here's why. These are people that are hurting just like everybody else. They just don't know where to put that hand. It's a lot easier to think Biden's a lizard person and that's why my life sucks than realize your party sold you out. They don't care about you. They care about work bans. They don't like the government coming into their bedroom. They have trans kids. They have wives that have miscarriages. They have to do IVF. These are all things that the Republicans are actively fighting people on. So if I see a Trump sign, that's a vote for Ryan sign. And I have had remarkable success. I have people with Trump flags in their yards that are Ryan Condon sign right below. I've got two quick stories. Mike and I were out knocking doors in Gilbert. We failed to see the Republicans for Life carving in the tree. So we knock on the door, the person's not there, no problem, we're leaving our literature. As we're walking away, the guy comes up, or he drives up, gets out of the car, Mike, I love you. He says, are you Republican or Democrat? Mike's like, oh, we're Democrat. The guy says, get the hell off my lawn. Wow, clearly this is a lost cause, but not for me. That is a challenge. As we're walking away, I was like, sir, does it matter if I'm a veteran? The guy stops, and it's like, well, thank you for your service, but you must have brain damage if you're running as a deputy. I'm daunted. I said, well, sir, I was deployed twice in a war zone. It's possible. Guy stops dead in his tracks, laughs his ass off, allows me to come up, and by the end of the conversation, he's like, you know what, I'll give you a fair shake. So, second one just happened the other day. Like I said, I love challenging, and I'm a big fighter. I love fighting. So, I went to the Pachyderm Club. The Pachyderm Club is a group in Marshall County of hardcore conservative voters. These are people that think the devil is real, and they riding around with me in the car. So I go to the Pachyderm Club, into the lion's den. I did this mostly to show my opponent that I'm not scared to go right into it. My opponent hasn't shown his face. He wanted to say what his stances are. So I made a point that I wanted to go there. And while I may not have won them over, one of the guys who was running in the primary against Kara Warner was Gannon Hendrick. And Gannon had a lot of good and tough questions for me. But very few things in this life are black and white. And so when I was explaining, yeah, I have some conservative views on things, some liberal views on things. Shouts out, pick a party. That right there cannot describe to me what's wrong in our political system better than if I had 20 pages to write in this. Pick a party. Not pick a policy, pick a position, pick a stance, pick a party. He couldn't understand that even because I didn't have a 3-word slogan that doesn't really stand up to scrutiny, that the world was not great. A lot of those people respected that I went in there, I told them where I stood, and I might not have, I got a couple, I think. But they all came out afterwards and thanked me for having the courage to go in there. People don't follow slogans, they follow the courage, they follow the leadership. I might not win this fight. Actually, I was kind of insulted. I just found out Brett Parker, who's my opponent, said, oh, I'm done with my primary. I'm going to win the election. I don't need to do anything else. I just found this out.
Motivation.
When I grew up, my parents taught me never to fight until it's time to fight. And now, with your guys' help, we're going to do this. I think we're going to shock a lot of people. I think we have the right people to win in these districts. Mike, Brian, thank you for going. Penny, Margaret, you guys have been great. Thank you guys for all your support. Help us out. Knocking doors, postcards, donations.
Thank you, guys.
I want to give Tony Thompson some opportunity to speak as well, too. You want to come up? I go for my chicken shoes, I go out, I've got 250 laying in, so it's just as easy to put on a quick suit that's kind of the uniform now as to change into something else. So you'll see this suit a lot. I'm running in northern and eastern Polk County. It's a really interesting district. It wraps around from Saylorville Lake, comes through all of the North Polk school districts, so it's Polk City, it's the Polk County half of Sheldall, it's Almond, it's Elkhart, where my family farm has been for 4 generations. We're celebrating 114 years in this spot. This district goes on around through Monterey, Mitchellville, and Runnels, so it's a really interesting rural, but rural. It's rural Polk County. It's different rural. I'm running because I want my kids. Layla just turned 5 on Saturday. Her sister Maren is 6. My stepson Nolan is 13. I want to see them around my farm or their offspring 4 generations from now. And the way that Iowa's going right now, that's not a good place to be a young girl. So that's the context for why I'm running. And the story, I've never told this story. I'm going to try and see if I can make sense here on the spot, on the fly. In 2007, there was a man named Al Gore. Remember Al Gore? Hanging chads, yeah. Al Gore did something called an inconvenient truth, right? He was talking about climate change and how problematic it was, and this was 20 years ago, and he knew because 30 years before that, 20 years ago, that climate change was a problem, that it was going to affect us. Well, in 2007, the inconvenient truth, it trained several hundred people like myself. I think I was part of the second cohort that he trained to go out and give the slideshow that he gave in the movie, right? So we're trying to have these intimate conversations with people to build rapport and to connect with people in order to get the message about climate change across. Did we ever pass climate change legislation? No. Have we really ever done much of anything on climate change in this country? So being the data geek that I am, I'm a data scientist by day, I built a computer-based model that helped me think about what happened with that situation. And the model was looking at what happens if I, as a presenter, go out and have one-on-one or small group conversations with 10 or 15 people at a time and really make the connection and explain what happens with climate change, the science behind it. So I'd say, oh, there's 200 of us out doing this, and we can reach, 30 people in a presentation. We'll each do 20 presentations. It's like 60,000 people that really understand climate change, and then what do we do? So you have the people that really know what's going on and really care about it. But on the other side, you've got big oil, you've got all the other interests that don't want to see climate legislation, and all they have to do is pour money into the mass media. All we have to do is put the disinformation out there. All we have to do is confuse people a little bit. And I could build a model that showed why we would not get legislation when that amount of money was coming in with disinformation. And I say that now, I tell that story or describe that situation because I've been thinking about this for 15 years in the climate change context, but now in the democratic politics context, in our future context. How do we overcome the mass media, the disinformation? They were talking about something kind of like that on River to River yesterday. Was it yesterday, Rosie?
Yes, it was, yeah.
I was on my lunch break, and I'm listening to River to River because I'm running to get some lunch. And they're talking about this on Iowa Public Radio. And I got frustrated. I spontaneously called in, and I said, so much of this is because of talk radio. Because that's what everybody's listening to. And all they're talking about is how Democrats are Marxists, and Democrats, those liberals hate the flag, and Democrats this, and blah, blah, and every once in a while I tune in and just remind myself of what people are hearing. All of this to say that the corollary, that the response to this, the way that we fix this is by having the conversations, and we're knocking more doors. So it's not 60,000 people, it's 600,000 people. Well, we've got to send the postcards, we've got to make the introductions, we've got to make the calls, we've got to do the door knocking. That's what we got to do. And if we do that, we will build a better tomorrow together. greatest public servants that's in the room this evening, State Senator Herman Kornbach. Share a few words, but you're certainly doing a lot of great work for folks. So
Go out and knock on doors.
there we go.
I'm gonna be knocking with Margaret and Penny tomorrow afternoon in Madrid. You want to come along? They have a picnic first, and then we're going out. Mike, when are we going door knocking next?
Saturday, Marshalltown.
The picnic is Saturday. I meant Saturday.
Oh, what time?
I meant Saturday. Sunday? We'll talk.
Good. Sunday at 2 in Marshalltown.
Put on your good walking shoes and get out there and help.
There you go. Well, to close this out for this evening, I'd like to invite up a special guest from outside of the area, Nate Williams.
Hi, my name is Nate Willems. I'm a labor lawyer from Mount Vernon. My daughter Ava and I just made a quick drive over on Highway 30 tonight. I am not an award winner, and I'm not a candidate for office in 2024. It's 10 minutes to 8, so I want to be respectful of everybody's time. But I did just want to share a couple of things, a couple of ideas that get me fired up, things that I'm really passionate about right now. So I served, a lifetime ago, I served in the legislature with Beth Wessel-Prichelle, with Lisa Hedens, and with Herman Kornbach. I mean, it was so long ago that I had a district that was southern Lynn County, northern Johnson County, and I'd go to all the Iowa City events. Back then, the mayor of Iowa City was a guy named Ross Wilbur. But then I'm a lawyer in Cedar Rapids. In addition to representing unions, I represent injured workers, work comp matters. If anybody reads Bleeding Heartland in the next several days, I'm going to have a piece out there about what happens when somebody gets hurt on the job and it causes mental illness in that system. But one of the things I really get fired up about is representing workers who've had wages stolen. I've represented people at a grain milling facility whose job it was, when they were all suited up, ready to go, to walk inside that factory 1 hour a day off the clock. I've represented daycare workers who, after they put in their notice that they're leaving their job, and after they'd already worked that 80-hour pay period, their employer decided, actually, I'm just going to lower your wages to minimum wage for the work you already did. And I spent a long time, this is a reputable employer, I spent a long time in litigation against University of Iowa hospitals and clinics. For decades, they basically took like an involuntary zero-interest loan out of workers' paychecks. I mean, the long story short was, they put up on their website, yes, we pay overtime. Our policy is to pay overtime 1 month in arrears. So for overtime-eligible employees, the overtime that you work in September will not be paid in October, but will appear in your November paycheck. That's illegal. We spent 4 years, had a class action with 11,000 current and former UIHC employees, and we recovered $15 million for them, and now UIHC follows the law. All I do is play whack-a-mole. The recent study by Common Good Iowa shows that there's $900 million stolen out of workers' paychecks every year in Iowa, which is up 50% over 10 years. Something has got to change. When people are not paid overtime, they're told to work off the clock, their tips are stolen, or they're misclassified. That is stealing, and it should be prosecuted criminally. We've had laws, the laws against stealing are some of the oldest laws that we have. I mean, they go literally go back to the 10 Commandments. But why? We have a theft statute, a perfectly good theft statute in the state of Iowa. Why can't we use it to bring criminal cases against corporations that steal wages from their workers? We've got, it's actually, I come across in my practice, usually kind of fly-by-night contractors who don't have workers' compensation insurance. That's also a felony in the state of Iowa, to not carry workers' compensation insurance. I don't believe anybody's ever been prosecuted under that law. We've got a really good human trafficking law in the state of Iowa, both for sex worker purposes and for sweatshop purposes. It has been used, but pretty rarely, and not by the AG's office the last couple of years. And it's also forgery. Forgery is a felony in the state of Iowa. I've been on the phone just earlier this week with a guy in Keokuk telling me about how he was in the office with, and observed, listened to his boss direct the secretary that he didn't, he wasn't going to pay overtime that particular week to lower so-and-so's hours from the 52 hours that they worked during that week, lower them down to 40 because he wasn't willing to pay more than that. Wow. That's forgery. That's nothing that's ever been prosecuted criminally in Iowa. Now there is, not in Iowa yet, but across the country, it's a growing phenomenon in DA's offices, county attorney's offices, and in attorney general's offices to have prosecutors devoted to bringing these sorts of criminal cases against corporations, and corporations steal wages or just run over their workers' rights. And that's not something that yet is caught on in Iowa, but it's something that interests me a great deal. Anyway, I'm the last speaker, so it's probably time for everybody to go home here. But I'm looking forward very much to having the opportunity to come back to Story County next year and the year after and talk to you a little bit more about how I think that we could take the existing laws that we've already had. The legislature is unlikely to give us much better laws in the near future. But to take the existing laws that we've already had, how can we repurpose them to hold corporations accountable when they try to run over regular Iowans? Anyway, that's what interests me.
We'll be hearing from Nate a lot in the near future. But let's hear it one last time for all of our candidates this evening, for all of our awards. There are just a couple items of business that we still need to conduct this evening before we take off. I know it's 7:56 and I think we can do all of it in 4 minutes. So first things first, Rita sent me a text message and said, "Hello everyone, sorry I can't be here. Gregory sent me a photo, so we're going to take a quick selfie with all of you in the background. I want you to just wave nicely to Rita Hart here and this selfie. And we're going to have to take a few of them because we got so many people here. All right. Very good. She'll love it. Thank you. Next thing, in the back, where it says people over politics. We're still collecting some money. You heard it from the candidates. Candidates need your money too. Please do give money directly to the candidates. But if you have an extra couple of bucks in your pocket, don't spend it on an extra glass of wine. Throw that extra few dollars in people over politics bucket and make sure that it goes to good use. The last thing I want you all to do, I want you to stand up really quickly. I want you to look at the people that are around you. And I want you to say thank you for the work that you're going to do